Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Real Talk Bougie. Guys, let's get into it. This is a horrible story coming out of Detroit. This is a couple, Sherman Devon Jones and his wife, Sampaguita Jones, both of Detroit. So this is the deal. They are both facing murder charges in the death of a 9-year-old who was in their care and custody as foster parents. So the allegations are felony murder, torture, involuntary manslaughter, according to the Wayne County prosecutor. Both defendants are um, allegedly licensed foster care workers and have been running a foster care home since 2018. At 12:30 p.m. on September 19th, 2024, medics responded to the home at the 3700 block of Gladstone Street after receiving reports of an unresponsive child. The 9-year-old was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. His cause of death was pneumonia. The legal guardians allegedly neglected and physically abused the boy, and the trauma from the continued abuse and neglect resulted in his death. A family member of Sherman first noticed the 9-year-old and his injuries in 2023. After seeing this, the family member reported the findings to CPS. CPS failed to open an appropriate investigation. Assistant prosecuting attorney Aaron Filmuth said during the arraignment, CPS allegedly didn't open an investigation until the child died. This is another one of these situations where they're saying it was too many scars to count, that the 9-year-old had so many injuries on his body. And this is just becoming far too common. The 9-year-old had scars, scratches, bruises all over his entire body, and the medical examiner noted that there were too many scars to count. The child was also underweight and extremely protruding stomach. He had fractures to several areas of his body, including his ribs, pelvis, elbow, hands, and arms. The boy allegedly was locked away in his bedroom and not allowed to go outside. He wasn't taken for regular wellness checks and was homeschooled. The assistant prosecuting attorney also said the boy's mother had been trying to get him back in her custody. So just imagine the boy's been removed for whatever reason, and the mom's trying to get the boy back, and the boy is supposed to be in safe harbor custody by foster parents, and then this is going on. Let's hear a little bit of the news story, and then we'll listen to the arraignment really quick.
Now facing charges in connection with the death of a 9-year-old boy. The defendants, the legal guardians of the victims. The Wayne County prosecutor filing murder and neglect charges against the Detroit couple.
Investigators also releasing disturbing details of the child's life leading up to his tragic death. Fox 2's Scott Wolchek with more.
This child suffered, and he suffered for a long time.
46-year-old Sherman Jones and 41-year-old Sampaguita Jones charged with the murder, torture, and manslaughter of a 9-year-old boy they were the legal guardians of.
And it's very, very rare before the court that I see such egregious and horrendous allegations.
Police were called to Gladstone Street on Detroit's west side back on September 19th for an unresponsive child. His official cause of death was pneumonia, but investigators say the Joneses ignored his symptoms, never sought medical care, and tried to conceal the several scars and bruises on the boy.
Head to toe. In fact, the medical report notes that there are too many scars to count on Owen's body.
Prosecutors say a family member noticed injuries on the boy as early as June 2023, called CPS, but say an investigation was never opened.
He was often locked away in his bedroom, not allowed to go outside. He was not taken for normal wellness checks, physicals that children are often taken to. He was homeschooled. And again, it's our position that was in an effort to conceal what would be obvious to anybody else who was living outside of that house.
Both Sherman and Sampaguita are licensed foster care workers. Each of their attorneys say they're innocent.
She's worked with children for virtually her entire adult life without so much as a suggestion that she was an abuser, that she committed acts of abuse.
Both of the Jones had their bonds remanded and are serving time in the Wayne County Jail. Their next court date is expected to be July 3rd. We'll keep you updated with the very latest. Reporting on Detroit's West Side, Scott Walchek, Fox 2 News.
Okay, guys, let's get into the hearing. This is the full hearing regarding the murder allegations of the couple. They were in court yesterday. Let's get into it and we'll talk about it afterwards.
One moment. All right. Are you both? All right. Give me one moment. All right. Are you both of you state your name for the record, please?
Sampaguita Jones.
Sherman Devon Jones.
This is case number 250-583-4101 and 250-583-4102. Appearances started with the Madam Prosecutor.
Thank you. Good afternoon now, Your Honor. Erin Wilmoth, P82085. I am appearing on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wilmoth. Thank you for your patience. For Mr. Jones.
Christina Harris, P52857, on behalf of Sherman Jones, who stands mute, waives the formal reading of the complaint, and Mr. Jones has been advised of and understands his statutory and constitutional rights.
All right, for Ms. Jones.
Your Honor.
It does.
Good afternoon, Vincent Aisha, P76506, Your Honor. With and on behalf of Sampaguita Jones, who is present via Zoom, I have no objection to proceeding in this manner for purposes of the arraignment. I would likewise indicate that while I have gone through an advice of rights with my client previously when I was retained, it's been approximately 9 months since I have gone through that. So I think procedurally, given the case, the court might need to advise Ms. Jones of her rights. I would, however, waive formal reading and stand review.
A form of constitutional rights?
I'd waive formal reading of the.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I do, just because I have not given her her constitutional rights in the last 9 months. Perhaps the court might want to do that given the nature of the case. I think that's appropriate.
All right, Ms. Harris and Mr. Hasha, on behalf of both your clients, the court will waive formal reading, stand mute, enter not guilty plea on behalf of both of your clients. Madam Prosecutor, proceed with your argument, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the court allowing me to be heard on bond. At this time, the more evidence will be presented at the preliminary exam, of course, but the allegations in this case are beyond egregious, Your Honor. This is the type of case that really leaves a pit in your stomach when you think of the unimaginable pain and suffering that was endured by young 9-year-old Owen. The evidence in this case supports that Owen suffered long-term severe physical abuse at the hands of both defendants who were his caregivers at the time. And there's quite a bit of a backstory there as to how the child came into their care, custody, and control, and at which point they no longer had legal authority and legal guardianship, but I will save that for the preliminary exam. Owen was first noticed with physical injuries as early as June of 2023 by a family member of the defendant, Sherman Jones, who contacted CPS and reported her concerns to CPS, and CPS failed to open an appropriate investigation as it relates to that. The medical evidence supports that Owen had scars, scratches, discoloration, and bruising over the entire surfaces of his body, Your Honor, head to toe. In fact, the medical report notes that there are too many scars to count on Owen's body. He was underweight with an extremely protruding stomach. He had healing fractures as well as acute fractures, which means non-healing close in time to his death. Fractures of the ribs, his pelvis, his elbow, scapula, humerus, his hands, his arms, I mean, the list goes on. And again, medical evidence will be provided at the preliminary exam. But what's more, Your Honor, is the evidence supports that Owen was concealed from the world, and the people's position is that was an effort to conceal the obvious signs of Owen's long-term abuse. He was often locked away in his bedroom, not allowed to go outside. He was not taken for normal wellness checks, physicals that children are often taken to. He was homeschooled. And again, it's our position that was in an effort to conceal what would be obvious to anybody else who was living outside of that house. The trauma suffered by Owen made him more susceptible to infection. And when Owen became sick with pneumonia, both defendants ignored his progressive symptoms and illness for weeks and never took him to receive medical care. And again, it's our position that that was also in an effort to conceal the injuries that we know are noted in the medical report and to continue concealing the ongoing severe abuse suffered by Owen. And ultimately, due to the significant long-term trauma Owen suffered at the hands of both defendants, Owen ultimately succumbed to the pneumonia, which would be extremely rare in a child who is healthy and who received appropriate medical care to succumb to pneumonia. And the medical examiner, as a result of the duration in which the medical examiner from his examination opined that this was a homicide due to the duration that these progressive symptoms were ignored. Owen's right lung was compressed because his entire right chest cavity was filled with pus. This child suffered, and he suffered for a long time. And what's interesting, Your Honor, if these two individuals are capable of concealing a child from not only others who might notice the abuse, but ultimately his own mother who was trying to get him back, what's to say they won't conceal themselves from these very, very serious charges? If there was ever a case for remand, Your Honor, this is it, and that's what the people are asking for. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ms. Harris, first, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. In response, Mr. Jones is innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. These are only allegations. As counsel stated, significant amounts of scientific evidence will come out in the future. If this was a situation where there were exigent circumstances and the necessity for investigation, Child Protective Services did not intervene and did not open an investigation despite a report being made. Additionally, the alleged incident date of this is June 1st of 2023. The warrant wasn't issued until more than 2 years later. I'm stating that these are allegations, that Mr. Jones is employed on a full-time basis, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. He is a holder of a bachelor's degree, and he understands the severity of these charges. We're asking for a personal bond in this matter for the reason that, yes, these are very serious charges. However, this matter dates back 2 years. Mr. Sherman Jones was going to work, living his life, and taking care of his business for a very long time before the state of Michigan sought these charges. He will comply with any conditions of the court. There's no necessity of an electronic tether because he has no criminal history, no pending cases, no contact with the criminal justice system. We're asking for a personal bond in this matter. Thank you, Your Honor, so that Mr. Jones can be released, return to work, and be out to assist with his defense. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Hasha, before you proceed, Madam Prosecutor, what was the date of death for the complaining witness?
Thank you, Judge. I was going to ask to quickly interject so that the record was clear prior to the court moving on to the next defense counsel. The date of death is September 19th of 2024. The allegations are that the abuse began in as early as June of 2023 through the date of death of September 19th of 2024. As this court and even defense counsel realizes, these cases take a lot of investigation. There's a separate federal investigation that has been transpiring, as well as the investigation into the homicide. So we, as a prosecutor's office, like to do our due diligence before charging such serious allegations. But they're not.
One final question, Madam Prosecutor. What was the status, if any, of any CPS investigation?
So there were two CPS investigations regarding physical injuries that were observed by others that were merely closed without even looking into them. Now, I've been in this unit a long time, and I'm not going to get into the downfalls of CPS. I think that I can save that for another date, but I believe CPS failed this child as well. So there have been multiple complaints. They never opened an investigation until the child died, and then they opened an investigation. What's interesting too, Your Honor, is the information I have received is that both defendants are also licensed foster care workers. And that kind of piqued my interest as to why maybe CPS failed to open up an investigation. But again, CPS is not here. They are not charged with anything. But I don't think that that changes the severe nature of the allegations, the concealment that occurred in this case.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hasha, proceed.
I'd like to just briefly respond to that, just briefly.
Hold on, Ms. Harris.
Okay.
Mr. Hasha first.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, these, I'll stress also the obvious notion that these are allegations and that there is a tremendous amount of scientific evidence that is yet to be discovered. And a tremendous amount of scientific evidence that's not been disclosed to the defense. But I'll indicate for the record is that my client is 41 years of age. She has no prior criminal history whatsoever. Ms. Woolmoth was correct that my client is educated. She has a higher education through the University of Wisconsin, 2 years of experience there. And she was previously involved as the workforce development coordinator at New Foster Care. She's worked with children for virtually her entire adult life without so much as a suggestion that she was an abuser, that she committed acts of abuse. My records reflect that there were no actual investigations conducted by CPS as to Sampaguita or Sherman for that matter, but I won't speak to him, that she had never been so much as contacted by CPS, and that she had fostered 2 previous children before fostering Owen. So you take an adult lifetime of fostering children and working with children, and you have no indication whatsoever of abuse, save for, I think, the allegation that's been made by Ms. Woolmoth. I can see that's what her investigation shows. That's her right to indicate that. But you had no indications by any entity that this was taking place with this particular individual, Ms. Sampaguita Jones. You have here, I think, at least is what I've heard, is there was a medical examination and there was a cause of death that included pneumonia. A clear medical condition. This was not blunt force trauma causing a collapse of some type of internal organ that caused the death. This was pneumonia. Now, I believe the people's theory is that the neglecting care led to this particular child, and God bless Owen, and led to him getting appropriate treatment. I can gather that that's what their theory is. We don't have that on the record at this point. We have
all of that will come out during testimony at a later date.
It can come out in testimony at a later date. That's
right.
A consideration for bond, but we don't have that on this record. To suggest that there are no bond conditions that can be put in place for an individual who has no previous history, who has no history of abusing children, and who has been uniquely in a position to have been around children for her entire adult life, I think is inappropriate. I think that a cash bond in the area of $100,000, perhaps with a 10% provision, with a GPS tether, is a sufficient condition that can satisfy both the safety of the community and my client's return to court. My client has been aware of this particular investigation since she called 911 and then was ultimately taken over to headquarters to speak with law enforcement. She sat down with law enforcement when the tables turned and she felt like she might need to have an attorney present. She invoked, as is her right, retained counsel. But you know where she's been since? In the state of Michigan. If she wanted to flee or if she had any intention to do so, she would have left. She's been here. So to suggest that she is a flight risk or that there aren't conditions that can be set.
No, let me clarify for the record. I don't think either Mr. and Mrs. Jones are flight risk.
Thank you.
Okay.
To suggest that there aren't conditions that can satisfy the need to protect the community, I think is disingenuous. This is clearly a tragedy, Your Honor. I respect that. But this is a unique medical case, and there's going to be, I think, a difference in opinions once the matter proceeds to the examination of the trial phase of this. So I'd ask the court to take that into account. I think an appropriate bond is a cash bond in the circumstance. I'd ask that you consider the same.
One final question, Mr. Hasha, and then Ms. Harris, you can proceed briefly with your response. How long have they been running a foster care home? If you know.
At least dating back to 2018, and maybe even before that.
Okay, so at least so we're talking at least 5-7 years or so?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Ms. Harris, briefly.
I just wanted to state that with respect to Child Protective Services, maybe it's a situation of Child Protective Services did complete an investigation and closed it because there were no findings. So I'm saying that that is something that could possibly be
Ms. Harris,
more.
Ms. Harris, are you speculating or do you have proof?
I'm stating that this counsel, opposing counsel, offered this information and she didn't have distinct information either as to what happened with those Child Protective Services investigations. So I'm stating
the investigation was never opened for
Hold on, Madam Prosecutor, hold on. Proceed, Ms. Harris, go ahead.
I'm asking, was it a situation of where Child Protective Services did complete the investigation and it was closed because of no?
Ms. Harris, she indicated they did not. So are you one of voir dire, Madam Prosecutor, or what?
No, Your Honor. I'm stating that this is a situation of where these are allegations, lots of evidence to be discovered, and lots of allegations without proof behind them. So Mr. Jones is innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and all these are allegations. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all, Madam Prosecutor, Ms. Harris, Mr. Hashem. All three of you will have given eloquent arguments in this matter. This is an unfortunate situation, and it's very, very rare before the court that I see such egregious and horrendous allegations. I've been practicing law for quite a while, but ever so often these cases kind of touch your emotions, and this is one of those cases. If the allegations are true, and I concede both parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty, at the very, very best or worst, or whatever you want to call it, this is extreme neglect that led to a child's death. Or the other way to look at it is that it was just egregious enough that if this was neglect to the point of intentional homicide. The fact that the child was homeschooled, allegations of neglect of seeking medical treatment, and the fact that the medical exams report indicated the child died of pneumonia, all point toward extreme neglect or callous indifference toward the child's well-being. If the allegations are true that his physical condition was such to the point that is described by Madam Prosecutor, then it stands to reason, and I did not go to medical school, but I've had pneumonia before, that your immune system, even for an 8 to 9 year old, even for that matter, even an adult, is very, very weakened. And that under normal circumstances, people do not succumb to pneumonia. But if the allegations are true that the abuse was such to that extent, then there's no doubt in my mind that the immune system would be weakened and would be vulnerable to a cold, pneumonia, or anything like that. That a person with normal immune systems and normal health would bounce back from. That's not unsurprising to the court. I find that these allegations are in fact true. This is egregious, and under MCR 6.106, the presumption of guilt has been met here under that court rule in this matter. And I'm going to remand both Mr. and Mrs. Jones in the custody of Wayne County Jail while this case is pending. This is very, very troubling. The court is very, very emotional on so many different sides in this matter. Probable cause, July 3rd, preliminary examination, July 10th, both in front of Judge Jack Kay. Is there anything else either counsel wants to put on the record? Starting with you, Madam Prosecutor.
I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Harris?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Asha?
I asked my client be referred for a bond redetermination hearing, but beyond that,
Mr. Asha, on remands, there are no bond redetermination hearings.
we'll address that.
So then the next, and this goes for both you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. The next time you'll have an opportunity to reevaluate the bond will be July 3rd in front of Judge Jack Kay at the probable cause hearing.
Very well. Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you both.
Awful, right, guys? So you heard the defense attorney, Miss Harris, say that these allegations are 2 years old, but the death of the child happened in September. So I guess roughly about 9 months ago. But the initial allegations were 2 years ago by a family member. They have a foster care home. It seems as though they are foster care workers. The Wayne County prosecutor said something about a federal investigation, along with them being prosecuted now by Wayne County. This couple is in trouble, and rightfully so. In any case, let's talk about it down in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Make sure if you want additional updates on this case and many others, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Make sure your notifications are set so that the next time I go live, post any additional videos, you will be notified. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Have a great day.